Hi, my name is Barry Liscombe. I'm Executive Chef here at Firecastle, and today we'll be going through a lovely duck Wellington with smoked pancetta, Brussels sprouts and mulled beetroots. So basically what I'm going to start off with, getting my duck and my sauté vegetables. So we're using confit duck here, so it's duck that's been braised overnight in salt, a bit of thyme, bit of garlic and covered in duck fat on a slow braise. And once we have that done, we basically pick the meat off the bone and we're left with this, okay? This is great to be done a couple of days in advance of your Christmas dinner, and hopefully now with what we'll show you here, all you'll have to do on Christmas Day is sit back, stick it in the oven and then just enjoy a glass of wine. So I'll start off. So basically I have here onion, carrot and mushroom. So that's going to be our base veg for the Wellington. So a drop of oil into my pot. And on a slow heat, you don't want to get too much colour on them. So we've got there. We turn up the heat here. Okay. So because this has been cured already in salt, there's an awful lot of seasoning already in it, so you don't really need to add any more seasoning into the mix, where generally you would throw in a bit of salt in there. We don't need to do that on this occasion. Okay. So we'll just sweat out the vegetables. And by sweating out the vegetables, what we mean is we're not adding any colour. So if you're adding colour, that would be sauté. But it's just sweating off. We're just basically getting the vegetables cooking, getting the flavour out without actually adding any colour to the vegetables. Okay? So let that work away there. And then what I have here for my stock, what I have here is called duck fond. So when we cook off the confit duck, what will happen is when you let it cool down, the natural stock from the duck legs will sink to the bottom, the fat will rise to the top. And what you're left with here is a lovely natural duck stock that's already ready for you. Okay, so we're going to be adding this as our base stock for our vegetables. We have this stock go straight in. I'm just going to let that melt down and incorporate. Okay, so while I have that cooking away, I'm going to show you our mulled wine beetroots. So the great thing about duck, it's not traditionally a Christmas dish in Ireland. It is in other countries where duck is eaten quite regularly. But it lends itself well to a lot of Christmassy flavours. There's orange, cloves, cinnamon. So it's a surprise we don't use them more often. But it's also quite applicable this year because obviously with COVID and everything going on, we can't afford to have a big turkey. It'd be a lot more small gatherings. So this will lend itself quite ideally for Christmas this year. So for my mulled beetroots, what I've done is I've gone ahead here a little bit. So I'm going to do like a mulled wine base. Okay, so what I have is I have some red wine, I have some red currant jelly, I have some balsamic vinegar, okay, I have some brown sugar, and then I have some orange zest and some cinnamon, and that's going to be our base. So we're basically just going to make like a mulled wine, okay? But the trick here is we're going to poach our beetroots in that mulled wine, okay? And once we've poached the beetroots in it and the beetroots are cooked, we'll take them out, let them cool down. We'll then add a small bit more red currant jelly to the stock. We're going to reduce it by half. And what you're left with then is you're left with a nice syrup. If I pour a bit onto, say, a little ramekin here, just to show you the consistency. So you got a nice syrup consistency there. Thank you. So I've gone ahead and done this in advance. So basically, once you have that done, you can leave them set aside. Your beetroots are cooked, your stock is ready. That's going to be almost your sauce for the Wellington. Okay. So we go back here to our vegetables. So you can see that's nicely melted down. The gelatin, natural gelatin in the duck has melted down. That then comes off. That's done. Okay. What we're going to do then is we've got our duck meat here. Okay. That's going to go into our mix. All right. And we'll mix that around nicely, let that soften, okay, for a couple of minutes. And while that's on, I'm going to get my beetroots on. So here's my beetroot syrup. And in with the beetroots. So basically you're just going to bring the beetroots to a simmer, and all they need is about 5 minutes just to let them come to, you don't have to let it boil or reduce anymore, it's all ready. Just bring it up to temperature. A little bit more in there. Let that come up slowly. Okay. as you can see. That's after softening down nicely. All right, and once we have that done, what we do then is we're going to wrap that in cling film in a little cylinder, which is what I have here. So we have a nice cylinder of our duck mix, okay? And with that, when we have that wrapped, we let it set in the fridge. So the gelatin will set that, so it's a nice shape, it'll hold its shape, okay? And the reason we do this is because this comes in handy when we want to roll in our puff pastry, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate that now. So I have some nice fresh butter pastry here, okay? So what I'm going to do is just slice down the cling film and just on the edges. Pop it out, okay? So you can see now, because that's been refrigerated, the natural setting agent, the gelatin in the duck bones, is after setting it for us. But when we go cook that, that will melt down again and add to the texture and the moistness when the dish is finished, okay? So if this was done at room temperature, this would just fall, okay? So it's better to have it refrigerated. We're then just going to coat it egg yolk on each side, okay? This will help to stop the puff pastry from puffing up when it's cooking. We then just simply roll it over, and just before you get to 1 centimetre, we cut along, okay? And so that's going to be our little lip. So we're just going to add a little bit more egg yolk to stick. Then we pull it up, and with our fingers, we just stretch like that. And then we binded it together, okay? And you see I've got a bit of extra left here on each side. We're not going to cut that off, we're going to leave that on. And reason being is, these are nice little tidbits at dinner that kind of, you know, if you like your Yorkshire puddings, you can dip these in your gravy, the little end pieces. So we'll keep them, okay? Now what I'm going to do is, we're going to coat one coating of egg yolk. And the reason I use egg yolks and not eggs and egg whites mixed together, you get a much more intense colour using just egg yolks. And make sure you get right underneath, okay? What we do with that is, we leave that for 10 minutes to dry, and then we'll apply a second coat. And when we apply the second coat, we get an even deeper, richer colour, okay? So we get back to that now in a second. So here I have my beetroots cooking nicely. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to cook my sprouts. So I have some par blanched sprouts. So what this means is they've been poached for 2 minutes in boiling water and refreshed in nice water, and then cut in half, okay? I'm a big believer in not overcooking green veg, especially sprouts. Just a light cooking, 2 minutes, and then we're done. And I also have here some smoked pancetta, which has been pre-cooked and pre-rendered down, so they're nice and crispy. So we're going to add in our sprouts into our pan here. Make sure the pan comes on for me. There we go, leave it on this one here. And just let that start to saute there for us, okay? So we'll just pretend now that it's been 10-15 minutes later. We're now going to move back on to our duck. We give it another coat. As you can see now, it's already more intense in colour. And we're then just going to lightly score. So I'm not going to put any pressure. I'm just going to hold it like this and just give it a little like that. So I'm literally just holding it, not putting any pressure. If you put pressure, you're risking cutting too much through the pastry. If you cut through, then what will happen is the duck underneath will bleed out, and then it will kind of ruin the aesthetic of it. It won't ruin the dish, but just it won't have that clean look, okay? And once I have that done, I'm then going to coat it in a mix of pumpkin seeds and flax seeds. Just for a bit of texture. You can leave it off if you don't like seeds. It's no big deal. It's just there for a bit of texture and just for a bit of a look. So this will go into our oven for 40 minutes, okay? This can be done the day before, even the day before that, and have it ready for Christmas morning to bang in your oven, okay? And this will go in for 40 minutes at 185 degrees. So I have my sprouts here cooking. Now, I don't know about you, but I love to get a bit of colour on my sprouts. So I like to get that nice caramelised colour. And once they're starting to go a little bit brown, we'll throw in our pancetta. We don't throw them in together because the pancetta has already been rendered. So if we put them in to start, we run the risk of burning them. Okay. Now, because the bacon's already cooked and because the sprouts are already cooked, we don't need to recook them. We just need to caramelize them and bring them up to heat. Okay? And the same with our beetroots. Now, this will take 1 minute. This is already ready. So all we're waiting on now is our duck. So I'm going to grab one that I prepared earlier. So here's one we've had in. So you can see it's puffed up nicely. And you can see these edges I was talking about. We don't waste them. They'd be nice and crunchy, dipped into your gravy. Okay? So, they're ready. That's it. Simple as that. 2 minutes done. We're then just going to add in a couple of toasted hazelnuts for a bit of texture. Give them a little swish around. And then, once they're off the heat, a bit of parsley. Don't put the parsley in when you're cooking because you run the risk then of burning your parsley. Okay? So that's them done. And you can see now with my beetroots, I have a lovely glaze on them. So it actually looks like a peach, but it's actually a beetroot. It's a candied beetroot. These are from Mooncoin. These are Mooncoin beets. Lovely product. See there, nice sheen. So down to plating. So basically, what I'm going to do is have my plate here. Any old which way you want. What I'm going to do is, I like this little end piece, so I'm going to keep that on there. Okay, so I'm just basically going to cut, say we just cut straight down in half. Okay, and that's what we have. Yeah, as you can see, it's still lovely and moist. So that natural stock has liquefied during the cooking. So I'm going to slice this piece here, just for presentation. There we go. What I'll do is I'll set this one here. I'll set this piece beside it. We can basically just sprinkle around like so. You see that lovely caramelization on the sprouts. Okay. Just tidy it up a little bit. And then for our beetroots, we have a couple of different varieties in here. So there's some candy beetroots, some red beetroots, and some striped beetroots. So you can just plop them any old which way you want. And then the syrup then. So that's our sauce. We got 2 birds with 1 stone by making our sauce from cooking the beetroots. And this sauce can last, because it's nice and syrupy and reduced, it'll last a good 2 weeks in your fridge. Like so. 1 more beetroot there for luck. So we go in here. There you go. Okay. And that's my duck Wellington with sautéed sprouts and smoked bacon and caramelized beetroots.